What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's Daniel here from the GeekSpeakNation channel, and today I'm here to give you my best budget setup for streaming and recording on YouTube and Twitch. So, continuing this series that we have going on, talking about, tech tips and all sorts of things having to do with streaming, and I showed you guys my setup in last week's video. Well, I wanted to keep that going because a lot of you have been asking, hey, yeah, Daniel, I like your setup, but do you have anything a little bit cheaper to recommend? And yeah, I will give you guys a starter with this video of kind of some alternative ways to do streaming that can still be good quality, which is the number one thing you always want to aim for. But before we get into that, guys, I just want to say, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more of it, make sure you hit that like button. And if you're new here, subscribe so you always get notified when we post a video and more tech tips and streaming tips just like this. And also follow us on Discord, which is going to be linked in the description or in the comment sections down below, so that you can join this community of people who absolutely love talking about nerdy stuff like this and keep the conversation going. And be sure to share this video if you end up finding helpful with others who want to stream as well. So the first step in doing a streaming setup is first making sure that you can actually stream. And by doing that, we're going to do an internet speed test on Google. So all you're going to have to do is go over here, type in internet speed test, hit enter, and then we're going to run a speed test. So what this is going to do is test our upload and download speeds and all that sort of stuff to test how good our internet connection actually is. And this is going to be really important because this is going to help us determine what quality of streams we can actually perform, or if we can even perform streams at all. So as you can see right now, my internet test speeds are sitting roughly around 11 megabits per second. Now, it's kind of recommended that if you do want to stream, you want to sit somewhere between 6 and 7 or 5 and 7. 5 is kind of pushing it. That's the best way to make sure you're able to do things like 1080p streams, 1080p 60 frames per second streams, maybe 4K, but that really is kind of pushing it, depending on how you do your streaming setup. But regardless, if it's anything below, I would say 4, if it's 4 and below and stuff like that, it gets really dicey because you could do a 720p stream, a 720 60 frames per second stream, but regardless, it's really risky in that regard. And unfortunately, you might want to consider, if you can, upgrading your internet. So okay, you've tested your internet, you know that you can stream, so how do you start? So here's one thing to keep in mind. What type of streams do you want to do? Are you strictly trying to do gaming? Are you strictly trying to do something else? Those are the kind of the critical things you want to keep in mind. Maybe you want to do just chatting. So that kind of is going to be like your first dividing point in the how you are going to stream. But let's just say, for all intents and purposes, that you just wanted to stream video games. Well, the number one way that I'm going to recommend to get started, if you're not really trying to spend that much money, is to just go ahead with the gaming equipment that you already have. The PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, the Xbox Series X, and the PlayStation 5 all have streaming capabilities built inside of your machines. You can grab a PlayStation camera, grab your Kinect, hook them up, and then there you go. You have a face cam and you have the game directly streaming onto the internet, where you can connect YouTube and you can connect Twitch. I know a lot of people may look at that and say, oh, that's a little too simplistic. I don't like that. There's not a lot of customizability. Look, beggars can be choosers in that regard. And when I didn't have any of this streaming equipment or a laptop that could properly run this stuff, you know what I did? Exactly that. The first video that's on my channel is a Twitch stream that came right from my PlayStation 4 of me playing the game Transistor. And I didn't even have a face cam at that time, but you gotta start somewhere. And the best part about it, especially if you're dealing with something like the PlayStation 5, is that now these are really strong pieces of hardware. So they're capable of streaming in 4K, even though most people don't have a lot of 4K TV monitors or setups. Regardless, you can still stream in 4K and get some really, really good high quality streams that you can then put over to YouTube as well. and it's really awesome how strong these machines are. But I will recommend though that you keep in mind about being a little bit cautious of streaming with your PlayStation 5 if you do own one right now, because at the time of recording this video there have been apparently certain cases of PlayStation 5's bricking, which is not good, because of streaming possibly related things. So maybe wait on a patch or make sure things are safe before you end up going that route with the PlayStation 5. But that is a great way to get things started. But an overall tip that I'm always going to recommend, no matter what streaming setup you're doing, whether it's from a laptop, a desktop, or you're streaming directly from your PlayStation, I'm always going to recommend that you have a face cam if you feel comfortable with it. Now, I completely understand some people are just not comfortable showing their face on the internet or in public and all that sort of stuff, and I completely get it. But if you do feel comfortable for it, I do recommend that you end up showing your face, because it helps separate you even further from the competition. There's only going to be 3 reasons why someone ends up sticking around for your Twitch or YouTube stream, and that's because either you have talent, or you have personality, or a combination of both. Now, a great way to help your personality shine through is not just through your lovely voice, but also making sure that you have a camera to show off your face as well, your expressions, your excitement, your fear, your rage, and everything in between. Having a camera helps separate you from the competition. I highly recommend that you have a camera in whatever setup that you're doing. But to wrap things up for when it comes to talking about consoles, the number one thing is that it's just convenient. All you have to do is turn on your PlayStation, hook up these accounts, or turn on your Xbox and hook up these accounts, and then boom shakalaka, you're streaming. It's simple, but it's effective, and it is a great way to just start making content. And that's the number one thing. A lot of people will end up getting focused on, well, oh, I want to do this number or that number. I want to become a partner, an affiliate. I want to reach these amount of people. I want to do these types of bonuses. Yeah, but you gotta start. If you don't start, you won't learn. You won't learn how to be comfortable in front of the camera. You won't learn how to interact with people in an audience, how to talk to a camera, how to talk when you have nobody watching you. A lot of things you're gonna have to end up learning, and it's just great to just go ahead and start right now, even if you don't have the fanciest of equipment, or even when people aren't really watching that much. Because as you build up that confidence over time of streaming and recording and streaming and recording, when you turn on that camera and there is a large audience watching you eventually, hey, it's no pressure at all. It's just like talking to a friend when you're looking down the lens and the barrel of a camera. All right. So now the second setup is going to be good for people who not only want to do gaming live streams, but also maybe they just want to do just chatting, or they want to do art live streams. It doesn't matter. If you want a little bit more versatility in the certain live streams that you are doing, you're going to want to do this second method. And this is the one that I use. And that's doing a direct live stream from your laptop or your desktop. So in order to do this, what you're going to do is download a broadcasting software. The one I'm going to recommend is OBS, or Open Broadcasting Systems software. I forgot what the S in OBS stands for. Regardless, you're going to download this version of it, the base version of it. 1, because it's free, which is always great. And 2, it is not very taxing on your CPU. Currently, I do use Streamlabs OBS because it gives me a little bit more interactive features with my design and graphics and all that sort of stuff, but it is much more taxing on the CPU of my laptop. So I recommend starting off with the base version of OBS. It's much less taxing. It's a little bit more complicated to set up, but it'll teach you the ins and outs of streaming in a more technical way. And in general, a lot more computers are going to have the ability to stream on it. So the best thing about using something like a laptop or a desktop is that you can hook up your own separate camera to it. Or in the case of the laptop, you can use the camera that is directly associated on it. I don't use mine. Normally it's going to be pretty bad quality, but it's a place to start. And to be honest, that's what I had to use when I first started recording YouTube videos with my face in it. I did not have a camera rig or anything like that to start out with. So I would take my laptop, and this was freshman year of college, by the way, take my laptop, put it on top of our AC unit that was in the middle in between our little bunk beds on the opposite side of our prison cell shaped room, put it on top of there, put some books underneath it to raise it at level, and then I'd talk right into the camera, And that's how I would do it. So like I said, you got to start somewhere. So it is great. It actually does work, and you can do it. You can just use the camera that's right there. And then on top of that, if I am going to make a recommendation for a webcam, I am going to recommend the Logitech, I think the CC7, I think it is. There we go. Any of these Logitech cameras, whichever one's going to end up fitting your budget, any of these are great to work with. They are very cost efficient, as you can see, which is absolutely great. They're really excellent quality. They come with a software, the Logitech software, to help do some other recordings and live streamings as well, if you prefer working with those. I think they just make excellent quality for when it comes to webcams, and they're definitely the ones I'm going to recommend. I'm going to leave a couple of links to some of these and the ones that I've used in the description down below. Even though at first the camera quality might not look that great on these things, the number one thing that's going to help with any camera setup that you have is going to be your lighting. Lighting is the most important thing out of anything that you see, and it doesn't matter. Not oftentimes when you first start out you have to use some expensive lighting rig. You can get like a $10-15 ring light off of Amazon or something like that, or in my case have that and also a lamp. It's right there. But having all these other different lights, or like a little floodlight in the background that I got for $30 off of Amazon, these things are really important because your lighting is what makes any camera immaculate. It doesn't matter if you're using a $500 camera or you're using a $50 camera. If you're lit very poorly, it's just not going to work out in general, and people won't be able to see you. So when it comes to doing this setup, I'm going to recommend, yeah, you can use that, or you could end up using a Logitech camera, the camera that's built into the laptop, or the Logitech camera. But at the end of the day, whichever one you end up choosing, make sure that you're just well lit and that you look fabulous. You have one main light source, which for me is this one right here, which would be my lamp. And then I have my fill light, which kind of fills in the shadows on my face and kind of gets rid of them. And that's going to be my ring light that hangs up there. And then lastly, I have my background light that kind of separates me from my background. And that's my $30 floodlight that I got from Amazon. Now, the next part of this setup, which is also equally important, is going to be your audio. Honestly, this is probably your most important part. There are, of course, people who stream and they don't play a single video game, or people who stream and don't have a camera and all that sort of stuff. But the number one thing that has to be on point at all times, and is something you don't want to go cheap on, is your microphone. Your microphone. Your audio is the most important part of all of your videos and live streams, because if people see kind of a chunky looking video, people get it, you're starting out, but as long as they can hear you and get a sense of your personality, that's what matters most. If people can't hear you, it does not matter. You'll get what's called bouncers in the Twitch world, where people will click on your video and if you sound like this, it's kind of hard to understand what you're saying. People are gonna click off. Why would I sit there and listen to that? I can't hear what's going on. Why would I care what's going on screen? So, audio is the most important part. So what do I recommend for audio? Never use any built-in audio, whether it's built-in audio from a camera like a Canon or something like that, like the one I have, or whether it's built-in audio from a webcam or built-in audio from your laptop. Never use built-in audio. Those microphones suck. They suck a lot. If you're gonna go for a starter microphone, simple USB one, no other setup, it's just essentially plug and play, I'm gonna recommend the Snowball microphone. So back when I was a younger man in middle school, okay, I decided I wanted to become a rapper. It was the first thing we invested in, me and my friends. When we decided upon that, we invested in a blue Snowball microphone, which ended up being what I used when I first started doing YouTube videos. This thing, like I said, it's a tried and true microphone. It just works. Not, Todd Phillips, it just works. It just works. And it works very, very well. I'm a big fan of this. Even if you're not a fan of the shape or the design, if you want something possibly just a little bit better, but still is going to be on the entry point price, I'd recommend going with even something like the Blue Yeti. This one is really good as well. It's a nice microphone that's USB. It's going to give you that condenser sound. It's going to give you that kind of broadcasting sound, but at the same time, it's going to be at a very affordable price. Now, if you're trying to up that just a little bit more and you want something like what I use what's called, I think, a full-on condenser microphone. So we're going to be using the AT2020. This is the microphone that I use, the Audio-Technica AT2020 condenser microphone. This is the microphone that I use. It works very good as well. Only thing is, it can get a little bit more complicated because you're dealing with a cable that has to go inside of something like this, which is an audio interface. So essentially it takes the signals from your microphone, converts it into something that can be put into your USB and then plugged into your microphone, plugged into your laptop. It's a bit more complicated, yes, but I think the audio in general speaks for itself. However, the number one thing you want to get, no matter what microphone you own, is going to be something like this. Pop filter or something to cover your microphone. I have this one right here that comes with a mic stand. It comes with the shock mount so any vibrations don't affect things, and then it also comes with the pop filter as well. But the reason you want a pop filter is because it's going to eliminate some of that noise that ends up coming around, but also it's going to stop your your tit-tit-tis from just penetrating the microphone and being too obnoxious and peaking. And then also it's going to stop any spit that you end up having, in case you just produce way too much saliva like some of us do, and it stops that from getting inside your microphone, because your saliva will get inside of that microphone and oh boy, it will ruin it. Now, if you still want to go with this method for doing videos, you are going to need, if you have a laptop, an external capture card. But if you have a desktop, it might be already built in there, depending on the setup that you have, a capture card that's already built into it to capture gameplay. But essentially, if you do have one, or if you're going to be in the need for an external one, you could go for something like this. So it's going to be cheaper, this $89 one, which will essentially take the inputs from your PlayStation or from your Xbox, convert it into something that will be read by your laptop and then streamed and uploaded. You could do that. Personally, I know it's more expensive. It's a lot more expensive. Heck, it's even more expensive than the microphones I've shown. But this Elgato HD60 capture card, it's phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. I have not replaced it at all. I've had this thing for years and it performs without flaws. I absolutely adore this thing. It works very well and it's what I highly recommend. Normally there's just certain things I'm just recommend that you're not going to want to go cheap on. And for me, that's going to be your capture cards and your microphone. Never, ever, ever go cheap on those two. If you want to commit to this, whether it be a hobby or it be something that you want to do as a career path or possibly as a business or a side hustle, if you're going to do it, don't go cheap. Not on those items, because you will regret it later and you're going to have to replace it anyways, and it's going to cost you a lot more money in the long run. So with that being said, guys, that kind of wraps up my general, just kind of best budget starter kits or ways to start streaming for YouTube and Twitch. Number one thing I always try to remind you guys is that you don't have to get all of this stuff at once. Everything that I have for when it comes to streaming, from green screens to microphone stuff to camera equipment, all sorts of stuff, I've been using this stuff for years, and I've built up all the equipment I have over the course of half a decade of doing YouTube videos and doing Twitch streams. So I have been at this for a while. So I know how it can be a little bit frustrating looking at the price tags for certain things, and just know that a lot of technology ends up getting a lot cheaper as time goes on. So if you got your eye on something, don't worry, eventually the price will go down, because eventually something brand spanking new will end up coming out. But the reason I recommend the items that I recommend is because these are timeless things that are always going to be beneficial no matter where you are in your streaming career, whether you're starting off light or if you're going in heavy and you need something that's going to be performing consistently. These are definitely some of the best ways to go. Now, like I said, I have left out the option of the camera that I use because it is a bit expensive, especially in comparison to the webcam. But like I said, if you want to know my full whole entire setup, including my laptop, you can always go into the description down below, which is going to have a breakdown of all the pieces of gear I have and the links to all of them. But on top of that, you can always go to this video, which will either be in a little card that should pop up right now, or it'll be down there in the description. But you can check out this video, and what it'll do is it'll be me going through my entire setup and every single thing that I use, which is, well, a lot, to be honest. It is a lot. But with that being said, guys, I hope you guys found this video insightful. I hope you learned a couple of things, or it gives you a kind of an inkling of what direction you want to go for your channel. But the number one thing I hope you take away from this is just start streaming, start creating. When I started doing YouTube videos, was I very good at it? No, not really. But I learned how to edit YouTube videos. I learned how recording works, and so because of that, I was able to use that in the film class I took in high school, and that kind of gave me a bit of a leg up, because I was like, oh wait, I've been kind of doing this with my Twitch streaming stuff and my recording software. Okay, I kind of get it now. And then as time progressed, that ended up landing me my first job when I was in college, because it ended up getting me a job with the newspaper, because I showed the guy who ran the newspaper, our editor, our supervisor, I showed him my YouTube videos, and he's like, you made all these? I was like, yeah, I make all these videos almost every single day, all this stuff, yada yada yada, found these productions, it's not much, but it works. And with that, I ended up becoming their multimedia guy and learning the ropes about camera equipment, and the rest is history in that regard, and got me my first job at working at the newspaper. So this stuff matters. It ends up mattering, and it's fun to learn a new skill. It is frustrating trying to figure out all the kinks and the problems, but once you do, it's a very rewarding experience, and then you gain some knowledge that can end up being useful in ways that you don't even know in the future. Regardless of whether you want to do this as a hobby or if you want to do this as a career path, a business, doesn't matter. Whatever you do, just start doing it and just give it a go. All right? I believe in you. I believe in you. But with that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really, really do appreciate it. Again, if you like this video, hit that like button. If you're new here, subscribe to become a part of the GeekSpeakNation channel, and make sure you hit that bell icon and set it to all so you always get notified of when I post a video. And on top of that, make sure you join our Discord so you can keep the discussion going, ask more people more questions, or ask me more questions about the gear that I use or certain things that you're having trouble with connecting. The best way to reach me is going to be over on that Discord. So go over there, join it. It's a great community. It's a great time. We're building it up, and it's going to be fun. And also, guys, if you want to see me stream live, I'm normally streaming live about Monday through Friday, Saturday. Still haven't fully figured out the kinks yet, but at 1 p.m. is generally the time that we're going to be starting now. I'm enjoying streaming earlier in the day. It is very nice. And it gives me free reign to do everything else I got to do with my life. So 1 p.m. is normally when we're streaming over at twitch.tv/GeekSpeakGaming. So follow us over there if you want to catch this beautiful face live. But with that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I'm Daniel, and don't forget to get geeky.